Well, what's the region? Abdul Jalil, Mercy, Femi. So we have a Femi and we have an Olufemi James. Thank you all for joining promptly. I still cannot share my screen, but I'm doing my best to make sure that we can have
Yeah,
that
so
sorted out.
somebody else joined in with that NIROW account. I'm assuming it to go. The moment she
Okay.
joined in, she claimed host. So I've just messaged them to give you access.
Okay, thank you very much. And then I can, or I can send the slides to her so that she can do the share screen instead, if that would be preferable. So hi everyone, I'm hoping that, we had an opportunity to go through the first part of this resume clinic series, which was when we talked about writing a winning resume. We had Sheye, who is a HR professional, go through the tips and tricks and strategies to write a winning resume so that you can get your feet in the door, because really what you really want to do is get invited to an interview. So you can say this is, call it the second part, where we get to talk about what happens when you actually get that call to, come into the interview. So I'm just going to take a minute so that we can share a few things. I have a few um, points written out. Now, one thing I want to say is that this isn't going to be a traditional session where we talk about, oh, you must do this, you have to do that. I feel like you can get that on Google. There are so many, like even on YouTube, there are so many presentations where they will tell you what to do when you go there, write this, say this, do all of that. So this has been specifically crafted for us as new immigrants, as Nigerians, that we understand each other. How do we go there and set ourselves up for success? And that's what we're really going to be focusing on. So if you give me 1 minute, I don't know why this thing is just, I will be with you shortly as I try to navigate. Okay. Navigate this. So I have my presentation up. Can you see my screen?
No.
Okay. That's weird. Let me see if I say share white. Nope, that's not.
Okay, starting to share, but
No,
then something went wrong.
it seems like it's sharing the wrong thing. So it's asking me to have, can I search? Sorry guys, sorry about this. This would have been sorted out before. Or you know what? Can I send the presentation to you?
Okay,
Fidelia?
send it to the NIROW email account. I'm going to log into my laptop now and share from there.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, that has been sent to you.
Sure, I'm waiting for it to come through. Okay. Yeah, give me 1 second. I see it now.
Okay, thank you.
So I have 2 documents for you: interview with ease, and then you've been invited to join a team on Canva.
Interview with ease.
Okay. All right. 1 second, please.
Yeah, so we can. or you can join on Canva and then um, present from your end as a team member. Sorry, guys. So while we're getting that sorted out, let me just still keep giving an introduction and just basically sets the stage for what we're going to be talking about within this hour. I'm going to spend the first 40 minutes thereabouts talking about some of the tips that I have seen, observed, and supported people through my years as a HR professional, both in Nigeria and now here in Canada. I'm a certified HR professional, and I have practiced as an active recruiter within the field. And I see the mistakes that are unique to ourselves. So when we have Nigerians come in to interview, I see the mistakes that I know, oh, this is just our culture tripping us up. And I really want to spend time to do this. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. So I really want to spend time to do this with us today so that we are better interviewees. All right, we can go to the next slide. I can't, yeah, thank you. We'll go to the next slide. So just a bit about me, and I'll give a preamble. Then I'm touching about on some specific things. So a pre-interview, communication tips, virtual interviewing, in-person interviewing, and then I'll talk about what we mean about the STAR response. After all of this, if you have questions throughout the presentation, you can put it in the chat. After the presentation, we'll respond to it. Or after the session, you can ask your questions. I want to make sure that we have enough time to really have like a full-on conversations that I can respond to specific questions that you might have. So if we go to the next slide, let me just talk a bit about me, because most of people ask all these things that you're saying, how do we know we should trust you? Why are you an authority in it? I have over a decade of managerial experience with people, projects, and systems. So I've worked with several projects funded by bilateral and multilateral organizations. And part of which was really working and motivating teams, so recruiting the right people to ensure success on the objectives of those projects. My educational background is in economics. I have my first and second degrees in economics, and also professional degrees in entrepreneurship, human resource management, and EDI. So some of you might be familiar with it as DEI. We put the E first. I put the E first because I believe that equity starts on everything. We start with equity before I talk about diversity and inclusion. So yeah. And I'm also a professional coach. I support individuals who want to improve their presence and charisma by teaching them very up-to-date skills on public speaking and communication skills that builds their network. As we know, your network is your network. Don't let anybody tell you different. If you can't call someone that would be able to, even when you're in trouble, that would respond to you and support you, then you really are not wealthy. Wealthy is not the money in your bank. Wealth is the people around you. All right, let's go on. Enough about me. Let's go into the meat of it. So we're talking about interviewing. Now, I know that when we come in from Nigeria, we have that power dynamic where the boss or the person who is interviewing you is like the make all and break all, especially if it's a job that you really want. And you are just there begging to say, please, like me now, like me now. I want us to change that mindset in our minds. And I'll tell you from personal experience, this mindset and attitude actually tripped me up. Is what I call the massa mentality. The slaves with the white men those days, everybody was like, master, master. That's what's, we come in, and I see people come into interview scenes. I'm smiling at them. All the panelists are smiling at them, but you can see their eyes wide open. Their hands are a bit shaky, and they're trying their best to impress. And I get it. But here's the jerk of it that you really want to know. As much as they are interviewing you, you also are evaluating them to see if this is a space you want to stay. You are contributing your resources, your time, your energy, your expertise to the growth and the vision of this organization. So look at it like a marriage. You're not coming in empty-handed. They are recruiting you because they see something about you that they want. And so when you come with this attitude of, I'm a person of value, I'm coming to deliver critical resources that you need, your confidence is boosted, and it shows in the way that you speak, in the way that you express yourself, your courage, your posture, the whole 9 yards. So first of all, it's in your mind, because as a man thinks, so is he. If you go with that beggarly massa mindset of, I really need this job, help me, like me, this, you are trying to respond. Trust me, you are only bringing down your value, and then they're asking themselves, why should we pick him out of others? So the right attitude and knowledge, you've got to do your research, the knowledge that you're going into that interview with, and the expression of that knowledge is crucial. I'm not saying be arrogant. I'm saying be confident. But how do you express this confidence? Because you recognize, first of all, that you are a person of value and you are contributing value. Okay? So let's go to the next slide and let's talk a bit about, what we mean when we first say the pre-interview. Now, most people would just start and say, oh, I got a call. There's all the excitement, or an email inviting you for an interview. That's fantastic. After you've come down from the euphoria, I want you to take a moment, stop, and think. What am I doing there? What's my role in this meeting, this session that I've been called to do? And for me to perform well in this role, what information do I need to arm myself with so that I am able to put my best foot forward with the people I'm having a conversation with? The first thing you want to do is get informational interviews. So I always encourage people, go on LinkedIn. One thing I find about the Canadian labor space is that they are really happy and eager to speak with you. Find one staff, or even ask the HR manager, thank you for this interview. A couple of things, if you do not mind, I would like to confirm, is there someone I can speak to about this role who would give me a bit more information or idea about the culture of the organization and what I might be expecting? Now, they might be like, oh, well, yes, because we, Africans, immigrants, rarely ask for an informational interview, but I find that the other people ask all the time. If you have asked, they have to respond. They might say, oh, yes, we'll set you up with one. Or they might say, oh, we'll give you an opportunity to ask your questions before we start the interview panel. Or they'll say, okay, you know what questions do you have? Let me ask. But guess what you're doing? You are setting yourself up for success because you have shown that you have interest in knowing the culture of the organization, and then you understand that you are bringing something to that organization. They will sit up and take notice. They're like, okay, this person understands their value. The next thing you want to do is, I'm just going to jump to the very last point there, which is an opportunity for questions ahead. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong for you to ask that, sorry, I do not test well. When I'm in a position of testing or exams, I find that I get very nervous. It will help me be better if I get the questions ahead so that I can prepare my stories for the panel. Some organizations, so I don't want to use a blanket statement because obviously I haven't recruited for all organizations, but most organizations will give you the questions ahead if they don't offer you ahead of time. Now, if you have the opportunity to get the questions ahead, please take your time to craft a winning script. I'm not saying that when you get to the interview, you start reading from your scripts, right? But you have the opportunity to think through your answers, come up with stories and situations that explain and give explicit examples to the answer that you are giving. If they say no, we are not going to give you the questions, that's fine. That's also very fine. And I'll talk about that when we get into the interview stage. Now, when I talk about doing your research, some of us just go into interviews, you're like, okay, you read the website about us, vision, mission, and then that's it. No, you want to dig a bit deeper. Most organizations, especially publicly traded organizations, will have their balance sheets publicly available. They would also have like the annual general meeting notes publicly available. You now want to understand, apart from the service or product that they are offering, who is their target audience? Some would also have a 5-year or 10-year strategic plan or 7-year strategic plan available on their website. Or if you do a Google search, you'll find some of those documents. Take your time to read it. And then when you are convincing or talking about yourself, you can link your transferable skills to some of the things you find there. So, for example, you can say something like, I am a representative of your target audience, being in the demographic of young Black African who typically enjoy music on the go. They take a step and look at it and be like, oh, wow, this person understands who we're trying to serve. And they already have put themselves, and we can actually get information from them. Or you can say, I reviewed the strat plan and I see that it's been well documented, your ideas and the ways that you're going to execute these ideas. My skill sets and prior experience can align with some of these ways, specifically in so, and so. So that way they see that this person has taken a step beyond and sees themselves as a team playing member. It also conveys to them that you are looking at the long term. You're not just looking for a job to survive. You're not just looking for, anywhere belly face, or let me just get the next highest paying, opportunity. You have identified that they are a partner that you would want to be aligned with for a long time. Then the next thing is you want to please confirm the session particulars. What time is it starting? What time do you need to be there? Is it in person? Is it virtual? If it's in person, are there parking instructions if you're driving? If you're not driving, what's the most accessible bus stop close to the area? What floor are they located on? Trust me, some of these little things can trip you up and you think, oh, I know. When I go, I will check Google. Please ask. Are they going to validate parking? All those little things. It also serves to increase camaraderie between you and the person who most likely might be the HR person interviewing you along with the hiring manager. And so it makes you stand out in their minds. Now, I'll give an example. Imagine you're thinking of a red car. You want to buy a red car. All of a sudden, you just start seeing red cars all the way, right? What you want to do is make sure that your name, your identity stands out in the mind of the HR person. They will talk to the hiring manager, or in themselves, they've noted that name to say, this person, Ego, they asked very intelligent questions. They wanted more detail. You started to build some camaraderie with them such that they are looking forward to your interview and are more willing to give you grace if such a situation comes up where you maybe make a mistake or something. They're more willing to give you grace because they have that relationship with you established. So pre-interview are always encouraged. Take time to, one, build camaraderie by asking for informational interview, by asking for the particulars of the session. 3, ask for the questions ahead if they're able to give it to you so that you can increase your ability to be confident by being fully prepared. And 4, get information about the organization that aligns your transferable skills to that organization, showing yourself as not just a team member, but a team member that is on board for the long term. All right, let's go to the next slide. Remember, if you have any questions, please put it in the chat. And as soon as I'm done with the presentation, I'll go through the chat and respond to questions. Now, our communication is key. I can't stress this enough. I'm not talking about an accent. In fact, if anything, don't fake a Canadian accent, because once you fake it, we know it. Once you start getting nervous, the thing might drop. And then we know, and we're like, see this one, who is he trying to impress? And once you build distrust, every other thing you are saying becomes distrusted. So please speak with your normal accents. Just speak clearly. The only thing you want to do is make sure that you enunciate your words clearly so that they understand you. Research has shown that communication is 30% words, 70% nonverbal. Our body language, our eyes, our connection, all of that. Why? Because we believe that you can barely lie with your body as much as you can lie with your words. You can use your words and say whatever stories. I know that there are some accomplished, should I say accomplished liars? But no, that's not us. But when it comes to communication, emphasis is really on nonverbal, especially in an interview setting. You want to maintain a smile, an open, friendly face. Some of you don't know what your face look like, especially for the guys. And that's because you feel like, why is man looking at mirror? Please, brother, uncle, papa, look at mirror. Some of you think you are smiling, meanwhile what you're doing is grimacing. You're so used to frowning that you have a perpetual frown on your face. Please get used to what your face looks like in the mirror. If you are surprised, does your face look surprised? If you are happy, does your face look happy? If you are a bit confused, and we have all those facial expressions, is that what is reflecting in the mirror? Because guess what? We can't see your mind. We can only see your face. And if your face is saying something different from what your mouth is supposed to be saying, we're going to believe your face. I hope that one is clear, because that is one main thing that I see that we always trip ourselves up on. Our facial expressions are just saying the opposite of what you're saying. So I'm in situations where I'm trying to convince the hiring manager, no, he was happy. No, didn't you see? And you're like, are you sure? He had a frown. His face was, I'm like, no, no, maybe it's just the way his skin is arranged around his face. Please take some time, look at yourself in the mirror when you're talking and see what you think you are expressing. Is that what you are seeing? Ask someone else if you're not sure. Another thing is eye contact. I know that sometimes our culture says it's not respectful to look an elder in the eye or someone in a position of authority. This has unconsciously been put into us by our mothers, by our teachers, and all of that. Now you grow up through life, you don't recognize these things a little. I call them ekute. You know that rat that's I don't know which language that is, but there's a small rat that is biting you, is blowing you breeze. So you don't know that you are being bitten, or is it mosquitoes? You don't know that you are being bitten. These little things, you don't know that they really impact you until you sit down and look at it and say, oh, really? You want to build trust. You want to build likability. And it's really important with the way we carry ourselves. In Canadian culture, eye contact is important because they trust you when they can see your eyes. Look at them straight on. Smile. The magic number is 16. Even though you're not feeling like smiling, you can barely say 16 without opening your teeth. So 16, 16, 16. Take a look at them and smile. Your gesticulations are important. There's something called body space. So you cannot be gesticulating into somebody else's body space, no matter how close they are to you. So in fact, the body space allowance is an arm's length from you. Do not stand closer than an arm's length to the other person, even when you are sitting. So if it's on a table across from them, you should be sitting up, not relaxed as if, oh, you're in your father's parlor with your legs stretched out. You should be sitting up. You can cross your feet at the ankles, especially for the ladies. Cross your feet at the ankles or mid calf, not at the knees, especially if you're wearing a short dress. It can be seen as suggestive, and I don't have to tell you about sexual harassment laws and all of that here. They take it very personal. So even the slightest thing can be interpreted in a different way. So to be safe, even if you're wearing trousers, cross at mid calf or at the ankles. When you're gesticulating, your gesticulation can be done more with your head and with your wrists, not with your hand all over the place. You're not fighting Jackie Chan or you're not fighting karate. Oh my goodness. So your gesticulations can be with your face, and that's why I encourage us to have a mobile face. What do I mean by this? Your eyebrows, your smile, the way you tilt your head to the side, your wrists just gently, not over the top. Then your tone, pitch, and pause is really important. For some of our cultures, I'm not calling any names, and nobody should take umbrage. For some cultures, every way we talk is like we're fighting. Does someone know which culture that is? Someone can put it in the chat for me. Let me see if we know. I feel like I'm alone in this place. Am I alone?
You're not. You're not.
No,
Am I
you're not alone.
communicating?
You're really communicating. We're enjoying it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. So which culture in the Yoruba? Olabisi Olatunji. It's not me that said it. Oh. Oh my goodness. Whenever they talk, it's like we're fighting. Like your voice is really loud and you're like, I know you're excited about life. Life is exciting, but tone it down. There's what we call, someone is saying Igbo. I'm not there. Let's not do tribal wars right now. So, when we look at stuff like this, right, it's what we call Urobo. You guys are cracking me up. So there's what we call inside voice and outside voice. If you're in the room, you should have an inside voice. Inside voice is that the person directly in front of you, so no more than 2 paces, ahead of you should hear what you're saying. If someone in the third row can hear you, then you are too loud. I'll take that again. If someone in the third row, so imagine someone is sitting in front of you, then the next seat behind the person. If the person behind that person can hear you, you are too loud. Your focus should be on modulating your tone so that you are friendly, not lowering your voice. They're two different things. And let me express that. This is me lowering my voice. You can barely hear what I'm saying. But this is me modulating my tone to make sure that you are able to understand me and I am still audible without shouting. Did you get the difference?
Yes.
Can do a thumbs up. Okay, thank you. Now, another thing I say when it comes to tone, you know that thing when you're in hospital, you just do beep. When you have that flat line, what happens when you see that flat line?
I think he means the person is pulse.
The person is dead, right? Good. Yeah. Now, some of us just talk and our voice is like that, beep, flat. You don't go up, you don't go down, but that's not how we talk normally. When you're in presentation, your voice is just like a monologue. You put them to sleep. The human brain cannot absorb information like that. The human brain is built to absorb sounds. And you see the way I'm talking to you, sometimes I'm laughing high, sometimes it's going low. When I'm talking about something important, I might reduce and modulate. But that's constant microphone volume adjustment needs to be done because it conveys other emotions beyond your words. When you're excited, it shows. When you're worried, it shows. When you're a bit confused and wanting to be deliberate, it shows. Compared to or pim. So modulate your tonality so that it is in line with what would keep them awake, alert, and understanding you, in line with the expressions that you're also trying to talk about. The other thing is pitch. Pause. Pause is like comma and full stop. And if you like, you can actually go on Google to check lawsuits based on punctuation marks. There have been lawsuits, $1 million lawsuits that have been discussed in courts just because someone didn't put a punctuation mark where they were supposed to. And so the terms of a contract was misunderstood. Now, your pausing and stopping is like comma and full stop with your verbal communication. So if you are speaking and you are not deliberately pausing, so if you remember, imagine if you're reading a book. Read a book where there's a comma, stop. Take 3 breaths and then continue again. The same way when you're speaking. Oh, my name is Blessing and it's a pleasure for me to be here today. Full stop. I would like to talk to you or introduce myself to you and see if there's a natural fit between my skills and what you're looking for this particular role. Full stop. You want to speak in ways that they understand, especially because we have an accent. They aren't used to some of our inflections. So you want to give them that added avenue to understand what you're saying. Remember that this is where we are, how, they're afraid of someone calling them out. So in that fear, let me rephrase that. They are wary of someone saying, oh, it discriminated against me because I'm Black. But that's wariness, that carefulness will not allow them ask you questions that they're wondering about because they don't want you to take offense. So it's now left for you to open up and say, look, ask me these questions. I am friendly, I'm approachable, I like to express myself. And if you don't understand, give them that disclaimer. I know that I have an accent or I might speak with words that you're not familiar with. And if there's anything you don't understand, please feel free to ask me and I'll be sure to explain. That immediately sets them at ease and gives you the opportunity for you to communicate clearly in a way that they understand. Okay. So can we go to the next slide? Now I think I've talked a lot about that. And if there are any questions anybody doesn't understand, feel free to ask me and I will explain. So now let's talk a bit about the virtual interview. Now, it might seem very easy, but a lot of times we have people come in a virtual interview, like what happened just today, actually. You know, we came in on this session and 5 minutes into the time, we're trying to sort out the text, sort out the presentation and all of that. Thank God we got it sorted and thank God we're in-house, but that's not proper in an interview situation. I always encourage, you don't know the computer you have. Now, a few things, check your tech. Check the Wi-Fi connection. If they say to be a video on, please check your tech that it works, your battery is charged, check that the sound setting is proper and set up properly. I'm going to talk about the color of our camera. Fortunately or unfortunately, most of those old computers, their webcam color hasn't been programmed to take color gradients for the black skin in mind. Now remember, we're trying to increase or improve likability. So if your color gradient is on blue and you end up looking like a ghost, they will tell you, well, nobody will outright tell you, oh, we didn't like you because the way he looked. Truthfully, nobody will tell you that. But there's something about an image that if we don't like, you say, I went with my gut feeling, yes, there's what they say, and then there's what actually is. So check the color gradient setting on your camera. Alternatively, get a webcam that is, the camera is, good, is modern, and they can use that will represent you properly. Check the lights. Have a bright ring light that is daylight that shows your face properly. You want to check angles, please, and just for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to do this. Make sure, don't do your camera like this, especially for the ladies that, oh, it's showing your cleavage, or, it's too high or something. You want to make sure that your angles are straight on. Now, because it's a square figure, a square window, make sure that your angle is taking your head, your ears, your shoulders, and the top of your chest. Head, full ears, like you're taking a passport, on the top of your chest. Now, within that square window, you have space. Look at your space around you, your background. You can set up a little flower or a little plant by the side. Research has shown that plants makes people relax and calmer. And if they are calmer, they are in a better space to receive the information you're sharing with them. So set up a plant somewhere that just shows by a little bit, and then have your angle such that you are face to face, not angled in one way up or down. Now, when you are talking, again, because you are transmitting information through a technological device, it has the potential of being a barrier. So you want to be a bit more extra in your smile, extra in the tone of your voice, extra in, your maybe laughter, inject a little bit more life in your conversation. You can gesticulate. So if you see throughout this presentation, I've been gesticulating with my hands. You might see my hands here, there, but I'm not flying all over the place. So it's head motions, smile, mobile face, shoulders, wrists if necessary, but beyond that square space, please keep it contained. Don't be distracted. Don't create distraction. So for the ladies, jewelry or something that would cause so much noise, or cats around the place, or something, fan blowing in the background, please keep it contained to reduce distractions, because the technological device, the computer or iPad or phone that you're using is already creating a barrier to communication, and you want to reduce all barriers as much as possible. Let's go to the next slide. So when we talk about physical in-person interviews, can we do the next slide, please? Thank you. In-person interview. Now, remember I said I'm specifically talking about what we know between us. All the other main this or that, you can find that on YouTube or Google. I want this to be for us and by us. That will really actionable information that will help you win. Garments, inside out. For the ladies, I know you want to wear, an undergarment that makes you feel good, confidence, that gets the girls up. Don't let your bra be too tight. If your bra is too tight, it limits your airflow. When you get nervous, your brain is struggling to get oxygen. It's not getting oxygen because your bra is tight, and it instead interprets it to mean there is danger there. And what happens when your brain tells you that there is danger? It releases adrenaline into your bloodstream because it's trying to prepare you to fight or flight, to the fight or flight response. Once that happens, guess what? Your voice starts shaking, your hands start shaking. All the things you memorized we are going to talk about, you've forgotten it simply because you couldn't get oxygen to your brain. So please do not wear tight undergarments. Guys, the same thing. Make sure that you are comfortable. Don't wear tight underpants. Don't knot your tie too tight, or don't wear belts that are too tight. You want to be comfortable to allow good airflow. Now they might say, "Oh, traditional culture is business casual. It's jean. It can be easy. It's creative role. It's unless it's construction work, and even then, when it's an interview." When we say business casual, tilt more, be biased more towards the business than the casual. So a good rule of thumb is always a button-down shirt with the button up to your nape. This is called the nape, not to your cleavage for the ladies. For the guys, your button up there. If you don't want to wear a tie, you can loosen it. But a good blazer, jacket is always a good rule of thumb. If you're wearing a dress for the ladies, the dress should be at least below the knees because you're not quite sure who the person, what their personal values are. If they don't mind wearing short things, or if they don't mind wearing, if you must wear long things, I always say err on the side of caution. Have your skirts just below the knee. Please arrive early. Don't say, "Oh, I had plotted it. It was 15 minutes. I left 20 minutes," and still anything can happen. Traffic, parking, walking up the staircase, not finding the place. You don't want to arrive there and be breathless and worried and nervous. That already has started sending you down the slippery slope. Arrive there 20 minutes ahead of the scheduled time. Sit down in a lobby or any allocated space, go over your notes, take time to breathe in, breathe out, relax yourself, meet a few people in the lobby, exchange compliments, exchange comments, start to get an understanding of the culture, a feel of the place. In fact, it might set you up to give you some extra expo for you to do better at the interview. Your posture, shoulders back, head up. I've already given you the magic number. It's 16. Make sure that you are smiling. Make sure you maintain an open posture. Please do not be tempted to cross your hands across your midsection. It is a defensive closed position. Don't be tempted to ball your hands into fists. It's an aggressive position. As you are speaking, please don't point. Please, it's an aggressive position. So you want to posture and present yourself as someone that is open, trustworthy, and likable. For the ladies, if you know your angles, you know what I mean when I say angles. Ladies, if you know what you mean, show me now reaction that you know. We know when we're taking our pictures and we are doing our pout, our fish pout. If you know your angles, the side of your face that looks better, when you are talking, you want to tilt your face just a bit. So, when I talk to people, I let them know that from time to time. If you don't know your angles, please take your look at the mirror. Your mirror should be your best friend to identify, because the human face is divided into two, and one side is always like not as balanced, stable as the other. So if you know your angles, you want to present, your most favorable side. Now you might say, why am I focusing on the physical? God looks at the heart of man. Human beings look at the external. Let's call a spade, and bring out all the aces in our hand to play this game very well. Now, I want to take point 4 and 5 together. Listen and maintain awareness. Let me talk about this awareness first. You will be surprised how many of us, our minds are wandering Londoners. going up and down. The next thing in your head, you'll be like, hey, which question is this Oyibo person asking me now? Your mind has gone. Or you will now look at someone's chain to say, this earring is fine. No. Your mind will go from there, chum, 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 to something else. I sit down in interview place, I'm looking at the person, I see that their mind has gone. I'm just smiling. The next thing they'll ask, I'll be like, sorry, can you take that question again? In my head, I'll be like, well, yes. Why would they take the question again when you were not in the present? You were not in the moment. Why wouldn't you ask? Please, TikTok, Instagram is not helping us. 1 minute, 30-second video, reel. Our mind has gotten used to quick. Once someone talks too much or asks a question too much, your mind has cut halfway and gone somewhere else. Biko, Mbok, Ejo, please be in the moment. Train your mind to focus and listen. The person has not finished talking. Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. Oh, it's similar. It happened to me too. Please. Listen to what they are saying. Be sure you understand what they're trying to communicate. Look at their own body cues. What is their body cue saying to you that you should be aware of? Don't jump in and interrupt before they have landed. Let them land. Smile, nod your head if you must respond, but do not use your words to interrupt until they land. Then you can rephrase to say, to be sure that I got you correctly, this is what you're asking. They say yes, then you respond. Some of us need to build listening skills. We don't have it. Please, this would set you up, because once they ask you A, you start responding B and going off point. One thing they're thinking is that this person does not have comprehension skills. So if he cannot understand simple questions, how will you understand tasks that he's been given? Simply because you haven't practiced listening skills. Please practice listening skills so that you can answer questions that are on point and on targets, which takes me to the next slide. When we say response, what are we responding to? There's a technique called the STAR, and if you want to learn more, Google is your best friend. Go on Google and check up the STAR technique. Is to give you specific examples that you can use to specific questions. Now, one thing I always ask to say to you is that most HR people, we don't form our own questions. Nobody has that kind of time. We go on Google, we look for situational questions, we edit it to meet our unique things, our unique situation, and we have that on file. That situational questions, you will have the same thing. If you go through 20, 30 situational questions and practice it using the STAR response system, you would more likely make it. What's a STAR? Simple. When you're responding, what was the situation? What was the task? What was the action? And then the results. So if you say, tell us about a time, that's how you usually start. Situational behavioral questions. Tell us about a time when you made a mistake on a task that you were given. What did you do? What did you learn from it? Context. What was the situation? Make sure that that situation is relevant to the role you're looking for. You can't be looking for a role as a teacher and given a situation of when you were a cook. It's not transferable. They can't relate. So as much as possible, even if it's not like a teacher role, but think about what are the tasks that occurs in a teacher role. So either teaching, presenting. So in my last job in this place as a facilitator, I was asked to present to a group of unionists on work ethics. That was a task. Now, I had gotten the information that was required and understood who my audience was. However, I didn't recognize that for this type of group, they were more action-oriented, and so they would have needed not just face-to-face conversational discussion-led facilitation style, they would have needed some activity to make them excited and more in line with the learning that I was giving to them. When I realized this was the case, I had to on the spot action. Come up with activities or ask them to come up with activities to illustrate the learning that we were doing. What was the result? At the end of the day, they were very happy because they were part of the learning situation. They felt like they could take the learning that they had to put it directly in the jobs that they were doing. And though I recognize that it could have been better if I had planned ahead, I'm glad that I was able to turn it around within the short time that I had to still deliver on the objective. Shikina, straight to the point. Tell us what the situation was, what was the task, what was the action, and then the results that was gotten. I think that's the last of it from me. I know I've been talking and talking for almost the past hour. Now I want to leave it for you guys to ask questions. Let me respond. As the more specific you are, the more specific I can give you answers. But thank you all for listening to me this afternoon. Just go through the chats. If you feel you want to unmute yourself, you can unmute yourself. And yep. Thank you so much, Hakima. Thank you, Kemi. Do you have any questions? Is there anything you feel that we haven't covered that you would like me to speak about? And again, if you have suggestions, so Ms. Okoye, thank you. If you have suggestions of what area you would like us to cover, so I want to talk a bit about the capacity building group for Nigerians in the region of Waterloo. We are doing our best to make sure that we raise the employability skills of our community members. And that's by giving information and resources as well as opportunities as we have it, making that available to the community. So if there are areas you think are pain points for you that you would like us to talk about and bring a speaker to talk about, please let us know and we'll set that up in our calendar. Our resume clinic is set up to run throughout this year to ensure that people can get the support that they need. And that also includes reviewing your resumes and supporting you for interviews. I don't see any questions. Fidelia, am I missing questions?
Yeah, I don't see any question either.
Okay. All right.
All right, I think something just came in. What are the best ways to tell your interviewers that you have an accent and you probably talk slowly?
Just the way you have written it is just the way you should tell them. Straightforward, with a smile. I am an international or a new Canadian, and based on our culture, I have a bit of an accent to different inflections on my words or pronunciations. I recognize that some of these inflections may not be familiar to you. So just to make sure that I am properly understood, I will speak slowly to enunciate my words so that you understand me better. That's all. In fact, they will like you for it because you are giving them the opportunity to evaluate you properly. I remember someone asked me for my name one time. I sent them a link on how to pronounce my name, my last name. And they were so grateful, like, oh, wow, thank you. I'm like, yeah, so that you don't mess up and pronounce my last name in a way that is offensive. So as direct as possible.
I have two questions. I feel like one may have escaped me, but the first one is, can you speak to, I know a lot of our folks would like to change, they tend to change their names when they get here because they feel like it gives them, it allows folks to, okay, can you just speak to name change in terms of, is there value to changing your traditional name to English name? Does that make it more, does that give you a better chance to get selected? And then secondly, are you able to tell us about online submitting your how do you go about submitting your resume online and having that chance? You know how there's like technology that selects resume. How do you package your resume to give you that edge to be selected, you know, with the electronic submission and all of that?
Okay, so let me answer the first question. This thing about name change has come up severally, and I think that we live in such iconic times. Unfortunate death of George Floyd has created an opportunity for Black people, and I believe that it's truly the time for the Black man. Do not change your name. Why? They are looking for diverse people to show that they are a diverse organization that is equitable. Once you're changing your name to sound white, you're already sometimes taking yourself out of the game. So please leave your name there. I have seen people on their resume put their names and put the pronunciation of their names in parentheses. So if the name is Kelechi, they will now put how it's pronounced, Kaylaychi. And I'm like, wow, that's unique. I've seen people put links to pronunciation of their names. I've seen people say Kelechi, but then they will now say short form acceptable short form, KC. So all of that is good. Do not eradicate or amend your identity for them. Again, we're building trust. If you are doing that, it comes across as, why is this person so desperate? Why are you changing your whole identity? Don't you know that your culture is unique? It's who you are. Why would you be changing your name to sound English? Now, the second question you asked was, how do we submit resumes? We had covered that when we were talking about resume, writing a resume, writing a winning resume. And there were several tips that we gave there, about making sure that I'll give you two, but I'll tell you, go watch the YouTube channel. So if anybody is interested, go watch that. It's on our YouTube channel. The first one we said was make sure that you use the keywords from the job description in your own resume. So if they say they're looking for someone who is detail-oriented, when you're talking about your skills and competency, use the word detail-oriented, because the applicant tracking system just looks for those keywords and selects resumes based on those keywords. We also gave another tip. We said make sure that your formatting is adjusted properly and save as the PDF, because most times when you upload, Word has a way of discombobulating the whole thing. It ends up being very scattered and difficult to read. And because of that, the applicant tracking system knocks you out. So format your document properly, save as Word before you upload. So those are those two questions. I saw another question come in.
Oh, there's like 4 more questions.
Okay.
I most times get really nervous speaking, but I'm able to pass across my message in writing. What tips can you kindly give me to help me out?
So unfortunately, when it comes to interviews, they won't tell you do a written interview, right? It's either going to be a virtual or in-person interview. So that's why I said for people that are nervous like this, there's absolutely nothing wrong for asking, in asking for the questions beforehand, and just saying that you do not test well. You find that you get very nervous when you're in an examining or evaluating session. It will help you if you have the questions beforehand to prepare for the interview. If they give that to you, fine. You have the opportunity to prepare your stories and examples on a written script. Practice it beforehand before going in there. You are not, please don't read off your script. Do not read off your script. That script should be cues. You see how I did this presentation? There were bullet points. There were not scripts for, all the things I was going to say. The bullet points will act as cues for you to remember what you were going to talk about. And then you're responding to the question. Because remember, it's still a conversation between you and them. Okay? Then,
how do you discuss why you are applying for a job, especially if it is a lower level earning job from what your experience is?
This is a fantastic question. Thank you very much, Ms. Okoye, for asking this question. So when you're applying for a job and it's a lower level job from what your experience is, it's two things. As honest and as straightforward as you can. So I was in a managerial position in Nigeria before I immigrated to Canada. And because I recognize that this is a different learning space with different cultures and different expectations, I want to learn and have the opportunity to observe the culture. That is why I am applying for this role, so that I do not make mistakes that might impact your people, your systems, or your target audience at a higher position when I am still unfamiliar with the culture with the Canadian culture or the culture of your organization. Very straightforward and truthful. This is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. And then they'll be like, oh, this person recognizes that there's room to grow, there's opportunity to learn, and they will be willing to help you through the process. Now, obviously, they might, some might ask you outright, so does that mean that as soon as you feel like you've learned, you look for a higher paying job? You'll be like, well, growth is inevitable. If you feel like my skills have improved to the point where you think I'm ready for more challenges, I'll be ready to take that mentorship and respond in kind, respond appropriately. So you're not putting yourself down. You're saying that I am learning at the appropriate level that I am now. And I'm going to take that heightened knowledge of being at the higher level prior to this time to improve my job delivery at this level, such that when other opportunities and challenges come, it's going to be quicker and easier for me to step into that higher level. And nobody is going, anybody that would be unhappy with you for that doesn't want your growth, and you don't want to be there. You don't want to be in that space. I hope, Ms. Okoye, that answered the question. Then Victor B says, what is the right way to request for the interview question before the interview? You can do it via a phone call, you can do it via email, to just say, hello, thank you for the opportunity. I'm really excited about the opportunity to speak to you and show how my candidacy or my potential would support the objectives of your organization. To enable me put my best foot forward and ensure that I am responding to the questions with well thought out answers, I will like if you are able to get the questions beforehand that will enable me think through and respond appropriately. Straightforward, wrap it in a nice, courteous way, but ask. The highest that they can say is no, and no never killed anybody. So please just ask. Ask. Ask again, I say ask. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Okoye. Victor, I hope that answers the question. We are 1 minute at a time. I know that whenever we go over, it takes a bit more time in uploading on YouTube. So I want to be sure that I've responded to all the questions before we call it a day.
Can I add to the question around nervousness, if you don't mind? So from an equity standpoint, I know that a lot of organizations are tending towards that, being very inclusive and being equitable, right? So one of the ways that you would know an organization that would give you questions beforehand is if they put in the bottom of the email or somewhere in the body of your invite that accommodation will be provided. That's one. You already know that, okay, that's an organization that you can straight up ask for. But that being said, even if you don't see that and you are worried about outrightly asking them for questions ahead, one of the ways you can frame it or word it is, are there accommodations provided for this interview? If you want to outrightly say, can I get the question beforehand? Just ask, are there accommodation provided for this interview? Any HR person would understand that. Pretty much worst case scenario, they will ask you what accommodation, what are your challenges, what accommodation do you require? That's the point where you now say, I get nervous or have anxiety with interview. I'm just wondering, if I could get in order to help me prepare, if I could get the questions ahead of time. But that's usually one way to get that conversation started.
That's absolutely correct. Thank you also for putting that in, timing that in. I know most
Please, when can we learn accents? Okay, let's move over to you.
Go to the dictionary. Go to the dictionary and learn phonetics. But on a serious note, right? I don't know. Well, in my secondary school in Nigeria, I know that they taught phonetic translations. And in my coaching sessions, one of the assignments I give people is go and learn those phonetic translations. Start again. How TH, how is it pronounced? What does, now our children now, Montessori schools, Abba said, if I get, they teach them pronunciation. So go and learn pronunciation of letters, sounds, and words, how they are blended, their origin. It would help a lot. So it will absolutely help you a lot so that you can enunciate your words better and just speak more clearly. So that's a good question. Thank you very much for asking. I hope that answered that. You can learn from the dictionary, like simply, go on dictionary, go on Google, A, B, C, D, and the word sounds, consonants and vowels. It will show you how you should pronounce and make those sounds. Okay. All right, so someone is asking about how to join the Telegram group. If you please reach out to the admin on Telegram. Oh, you're not on Telegram. Okay. Sorry, I will make sure that if you can put your full name and contact information on the chat, I will make sure that gets to you. Someone reached out to you to sort that out. If there are no more questions, I want to say thank you all. I recognize that it's not easy to take out an hour on a Saturday afternoon when we have such glorious weather, and you could be doing 10 million other things, but you chose to be with us here this afternoon. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for the sacrifice of your time. And I hope that it was informative. I hope that you learned something and pay it forward. Pay it forward. What's our YouTube channel? Fidelia Ugo, what's our YouTube channel? I believe it's NIROW. Thank you. It is NIROW, just YouTube. So I want to say thank you all and pay it forward. Please, let's build this community. Community is not one person, it's not 5 people, it's all of us. All of us doing well, all of us being strong will make Nigeria truly a voice to be heard. We'll be invited to tables across the region. So please, in our spaces, wherever we find ourselves, let's be excellent. Let us be excellent so that we can grow. We have money. People will not be telling us or talking to us anyhow. So the first thing is get a job, get employment, get a business. You can go into entrepreneurship, excel, thrive, and you can do it. The land will favor you. God bless us all in Jesus' name. Amen. Bye.
Thank you very, very much, Blessing. Thank you. And thanks everyone for joining as well.